goal is to win the championship, and to do that, you have to make it to the next round.
As far as the competitiveness of the playoff situation, I'm a little worried right now about the Chevrolet teams.
Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson have owned this track now for the last 4 races. They've basically run 1-2 for most of the race. Is there anyone else in the field that can surpass those two? Welcome to the Backstretch. I am News 5's Heather Williams, coming to you from the Bristol Motor Speedway, my home track. Pretty special edition of the Backstretch as we get ready for the night race at Bristol, one of the crown jewels of NASCAR. It's going to be interesting tonight. It's going to be really interesting tonight to see which 4 drivers are eliminated, if anyone from below the cut line can jump up and get into the playoffs or continue on in the playoffs in the round of 12. Had a chance this week to sit down with Joey Logano. He's our guest this week. He's one of those guys still kind of fighting to advance. And it was just a couple of years ago that Joey was knocked out in the round of 16. It didn't happen very often for the 3-time champ. So got to talk to him a little bit about what his mindset is coming into the weekend, how he's going to race, because he is on the positive side now. Is he aggressive? Does he go for a win? Does he race for stage points and just try to be steady and mitigate damage? He hasn't been all that successful at Bristol since the next gen car came into NASCAR. So that's one of the things we talked about. And then we talked about cars. Joey's a car guy and I am a car girl. I grew up around cars. My dad worked for Ford. I love cars. That's what drew me to racing. IndyCar first and then eventually NASCAR. So really fun conversation with him about cars and how he got into cars. So that's coming up. Plus we'll talk about all the week's news with our friend Chris Carrier. All right, let's get going. Joining us now is our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who is also the crew chief for the number 75 Food Country truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. Denny Hamlin became the 2nd driver and, might I mention, the 2nd Toyota driver to punch their ticket to the next round of the playoffs. Is Toyota now the team to beat in the postseason?
Heather, absolutely, for sure. We talked about this a little bit last week about thinking, okay, St. Louis was a place that we felt like the Penske cars had a good track record and should have good notes and so on and so forth, and maybe get their mojo going, playoff mojo going, but that didn't really happen. Right now, up to this point, and it's still early, but up to this point, it kind of is like a Toyota-thon.
I see what you did there.
A lot of the Toyotas ran good, not just Denny Hamlin. They have, I think they have mastered getting their information across to everyone, which is Joe Gibbs Racing, 2311 Racing, and then also Legacy Racing. Thank you. And the Legacy cars have really turned it on since around mid-season. Around the 50-yard line of the season, they went from being okay, they're going to run 20th plus or minus to like 15th plus or minus. Then all of a sudden, those cars are running in the top 5 through most of the race and getting some good finishes. So they have figured out some things about this new generation car, and they've figured out what makes it go and what gives it downforce, side force, whatever, good grip, and it has spread around among their teams, and they all seem to be using it very well. They all seem to be on the same page. So as far as the competitiveness of the playoff situation, I'm a little worried right now about the Chevrolet teams. They seem to be struggling a little bit, and the Ford teams are kind of there, maybe not there.
Well, the thing about the Ford teams is that this always seems to be the point in the season where they come on.
Absolutely.
And
especially the Penske teams.
Right, you keep waiting for a switch to be flipped, and it has not happened.
The switch, they're still looking for the switch out there, and they can't, either it broke off or they can't find it. And I'm not saying I'm not telling you that they won't find it. Don't write the end of the book yet. Don't write the last chapter, because it's still pretty early. And we're still going to some tracks that really all those guys, or everybody that we've talked about, are good at and can have good finishes and can win races. But right now, the Toyota camps have to be feeling pretty good about themselves. So we'll see. We're going to the greatest racetrack on the planet.
So let's talk about the greatest racetrack in the planet.
I love it.
Tires are the hot topic heading into the weekend. Here's what we know. We know we're going to have a softer right tire than we've had in the past. We know they're going to put your favorite PJ1 on the track.
Okay.
So, and Dave says that it's not going to be super cool this weekend. So what does that mean? What can we expect from the tires?
I just, you know, depending on, I think, I feel like that, I just have a gut feeling, I think that Goodyear will nail this weekend. I'm not saying they'll have nails in the tires. I think they'll hit it. I think they've had enough experience down here now with this car and with this tire, and we've settled on a track treatment. We haven't changed, they're not going to change that around, going back to what we used for years. It's going to be the same thing, applied the same way, in the same area, so on and so forth. And I think the teams know enough now. I really believe, I'm hoping, but I believe with weather too, that we can see it's Chamber of Commerce weather. Can't ask for no better now. So I don't want to hear any fans saying I didn't go because I didn't think the weather was going to be good. No, we're not going to accept that. But I think you're going to have good racing. I think the soft right side tires will help the track rubber up. I think you'll have more of a whole racetrack, not just one groove down here, one groove up here, this one comes in, this one goes away. I think you'll have it. I think you'll have some, because of the softer tires, some tire degradation, which we've seen at other short tracks, and that leads to cars being able to pass, because when the tires wear out and they're not that great anymore, then the guys that have good race cars, good handling race cars, good balanced race cars, good setups, where they may be behind the guys that have setups that last for 5 or 10 laps, run real fast. There'll be some passing. The good cars will go around the not so good cars, and you'll see lap traffic too. And I think it will end up being good racing with some good passing, some good real racing. I think there'll be a little bumping and scrubbing. Probably with not having to knock somebody over into Beaver Creek to get around them, but
that's what the fans. But that's what the fans love. They want to see someone knocked over into Beaver Creek.
Yeah.
I guess beyond the tires, the biggest question is, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson have owned this track now for the last 4 races. They've basically run 1-2 for most of the race. Is there anyone else in the field that can surpass those two?
Well, Christopher Bell is pretty good here. He needs to be able to put races together here, as do many other people, and that's an easier thing for me to say than it is for all those guys to do. That's a hard thing to do at Bristol. I still think there's guys like Joey Logano. I still think there's guys like Kyle Larson and William Byron, and I think there's guys even in the Toyota camp that haven't rose to the top just yet. I think Christopher Bell, I think...
Would it surprise you if I told you that Joey Logano has not even had, like, a great race? I don't think he's even finished in the top 10 at Bristol since the next gen. A track that he used to be the guy that everybody was chasing.
He was, and I think Joey Logano and his team is capable. I think they're capable. They have everything. They have all the tools. They have all the parts and pieces. They have the driver. They have the crew chief for sure. They have everything there to do it. It's putting all those pieces together at this racetrack. So I think Heather, I think it's going to be interesting. Every week, these guys are going through a lot of decision-making process of like, okay, how do we approach each race? And they're doing a lot of simulation. I can tell you right now that the simulation rigs, from about 2 or 3 weeks back forward till now and forward till the end of the year, are going hot. They are running like they're running out of gas. So these people are smart enough to figure something out between 1 week and the other. It can happen. So don't write off any of them. But
now, see, this is the thing. Now I'm going to ask you to write off some people. So
okay.
Bristol is the cutoff race. You have Logano just above the cut line.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Austin Dillon, Shane Van Gisbergen, Alex Bowman, and Josh Berry.
Josh Berry.
Below the cut line. Who gets those final spots?
The 4 you mentioned there, I would definitely, if I was going to put my finger on one and say that's my guy, I would expect Joey Logano to rise to the occasion. The other 4 you really mentioned, I don't see the momentum factor with them, and I don't know if their teams are strong enough right now to overcome, to make that next step. Because
even though Alex Bowman has been on the pole the last 2 times here?
It's a long race.
Fair, because he didn't finish up right. Notice I said on the pole.
Every one of them have all the tools and all the knowledge and the people and everything. These are the best in the world. There's a group of 16 of the best in the world, but you got to remember the 4 that's like on the outside looking in. They've got to beat some people who are also the best in the world. They've got to overcome, some Ryan Blaney's and Kyle Larson's and I almost said Martin Truex, but
Chase Briscoe.
Chase Briscoe.
See, we both had one of those moments.
Even though we both have one of those moments, and also Tyler Reddick. And you got to, you can look through the year and see all these guys. You can look and say, you can pick out some races during the year or a segment during the year, and you can say, this guy, I don't know, I just don't think he's going to be championship material. Then you can look at another part of the season or another few races and say, man, yeah, he could win races. I'm just looking at the overall picture of what I think through all of the year, and also lately, the momentum factor, which tells me who's doing the best job of using their simulation and using their resources, using their wind tunnel information, using everything they have, all their engineering power and their experience power to make the best decisions to start the race, to go there, to start the Bristol weekend. Because once they're there, they don't get a lot of time or get a lot of chances to change things. They're kind of bought in. And we see in the Truck Series, we talked about it today, it's like we kind of live the same world. We don't have the amount of resources those guys do, but we use what we can. We use what we have, and it's still like, okay, I got to think through all these decisions before we load this thing, because after we get there, you're not changing front springs, you're not changing rear springs, you're not changing shocks, you're not changing the elements of that chassis setup that's going to make that car or truck or whatever drive better or be better balanced, especially throughout a race at Bristol. So, I think it's going to be a really interesting weekend throughout. I think all 3 races, and I think the Cup race is, I think you just need to watch and see, and there's going to be a lot of people biting their fingernails and pulling their hair out saying, okay, how am I going to get to the point where I can get in the next step?
So we're hanging out here in the garage bar with Joey Logano, driver of the number 22 Ford for Penske and a playoff driver. I think I asked you this on Media Day, but I'll ask you this again. It's an odd year. You haven't ever run within you for this year?
I'm an odd person, so it should fit pretty well. Maybe it'll be okay.
But it is funny, just like how that's worked out for you, that you've won championships on even years.
It is interesting. Obviously, I don't believe in just luck or things just being coincidence. There's obviously something there. I haven't quite figured out what that is. Hopefully we do this year and figure out that difference and we're able to get there. But I feel like there's been odd years where we've been strong, and I feel like we should have made it all the way. Some of our best years, I think 2015 was like a year where we should have made it to the championship four, but we didn't. So I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Hopefully we can change that this year.
Speaking of figuring it out, you had this place covered in the Gen 6 car. Like, you were really good here. We go to the next gen car, and all of a sudden, you're not so good. So have you figured out what you've been missing since we've gone to the Gen 7 car?
I have a lot of ideas on what it could be. And the other piece to it, yes, we haven't been as fast as we were at the old car. You're right. but the stats show way worse than what we actually have been because we've gotten caught up into a lot of different just odd situations on the racetrack, which makes the stats look worse, right? There's been a lot of DNFs here lately or just issues in general that we've had to overcome. So there hasn't been many smooth races on top of that, which also, when you're fast, usually you're up more towards the front, and you usually have more of a smooth race, typically, right? If you're not as fast, you're back in the pack, and things happen quickly at Bristol, you get caught up into it. So they go hand in hand as well, but yeah, definitely need to be a little bit faster.
Think about Bristol. I know you love this track. There's a lot of people that have been, I don't want to say like disheartened or whatever, but I haven't been as enthusiastic about this track in recent years. I have a couple theories as to why, but do you have an idea why people aren't as excited about Bristol as they seem to have been in the past?
I don't know what you would not like about Bristol. I think it's awesome. Track's ever changing. Right, like sometimes there's cars that are fast in a short run, and then the track changes, and they got to make the top work, and they can't make the top work, and it's very interesting. It's constantly changing. So I think for me, like as a race fan, I look at it and go, man, this is a great track. There's not a bad seat in the house. There's constant racing all the time. Like if it's not for the lead, just go back a couple spots. They're racing side by side somewhere in that mix. I don't really see another track I'd rather watch personally. It's my opinion. I think this is the best, some of the best racing that we see all year.
This race as a cutoff race. Obviously, you're fighting to get into the next round of the playoffs. What do you think about this place as a cutoff race?
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, there's a lot of things that can't happen, but just because, I mean, it's in the playoffs, so it's a very important race no matter how you look at it. So I don't see, it could be the first race of a round of the playoffs or the last. Like, you still got to run good when you get here, either way.
I wanted to ask you about your car collection. Like, you're a car dude, right?
Yeah, I love cars.
Okay, I'm a car person. My dad actually worked for Ford when I was a kid growing up. So, do you have a favorite car in your collection?
I like driving very unique things. My favorite car is I have a 1924 Ford Model T, which you should love.
I do love.
But I love it because it's for a few reasons, right? It is the car that really put Ford on the map, right? But also, I like seeing, it's over 100 years old now. I like seeing how far vehicles have come from 100 years ago, right? Like, at one point, that was a pretty amazing car. And now you look at today's cars and you're like, gosh, no one even knows how to drive that. Forget even starting it. It's got to hand crank it on the front. Like, it's like unheard of. Nobody knows what to do. It's kind of cool to see how far it's come. And it's a good reminder that even though what we have today is amazing, what's 100 years from now look like? And just always be looking forward.
So how did you get into cars? I mean, I told you my dad worked for Ford. That's how I got into cars. How did you get into cars?
I mean, I just always loved it, for one. Right? I was the kid that had the Hot Wheels, the race car bed. Like I had a go-kart when I was 5, 6 years old. I fell in love with driving first. And then I've always enjoyed being a little bit different than everybody else, right? And I'm not the person that just wants the same car as everyone else. It's not a thing to me that's just to get you from point A to point B. I think there's some style, there's like some personality there and who you are, and I've always kind of enjoyed that part. I enjoy going to car shows and talking to people, and whether it's the story behind the car, and maybe it was your parents' car, or your grandparents, and you have memories in it, that means a lot. Or maybe you built that car, or you built it with your dad, or something like that. Like that always had, those special moments when you get in a car and you start driving it. Those memories always come rushing back. I have a couple cars like that I just remember as a kid, like riding in it with my dad, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Just need to make those memories again with my kid too.
What was your first car?
My first car, this is how you know you're a car person. So when I turned 16, I bought an old rat rod. So that's what I wanted to drive. So it's an old GMC truck, but it was all rusted out and hot rodded out, and I thought that was cool. I still got it. I drove it this week. I took my kids to school in it this week.
See, I'm jealous because my first car was a 1964 and a half Mustang.
Oh,
I do
nice.
not still have that car.
Oh, it's beautiful. Wish
16,
you did, though.
16-year-old Heather hated that car because I couldn't reach the pedals. 50-year-old Heather wants to smack 16-year-old Heather. Yeah, so I'm very jealous that you still have that. That's very cool. So when you go into a weekend like this weekend, kind of getting back to racing, what's the mindset? Because obviously you have to be consistent because you're on the positive side of the playoffs right now. I know you also really want to win. So what's the mindset?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be solid, right? The mindset is, look at your goals. What's the goal? Make it to the next round. The goal is to win the championship, and to do that, you have to make it to the next round. So, goal number one: score stage points, get yourself where you're in a good spot, and depending on what that is, kind of changes your aggression level from behind the wheel, and also from a strategy perspective. So, you kind of gotta just get the race going, get through a couple stages, see where things have lined up, understand what you have to do to move on, and then you can adapt to that.
Final question. I know your family is at the track all the time. How cool is it to be sharing these moments, with your children? I know they drove with you when you won the championship last year and all that kind of stuff. What's that like as a dad?
It's been fun. Your perspective changes as soon as you have kids. Right? You just immediately, like, the reason why you do things, or the experiences that you have together, meaning or just trying to lead your kids in the right direction. Like, it's so hard, right? Parenting's really hard. But we have a lot of fun, we loaded up and drove up here this morning, and, they're having a good time in the bus lot, and, they look forward to, tonight be the Xfinity race, and they look forward to coming down here, and, my oldest, he's 8 up racing, so he's like, I just want to go up and watch, I want to watch in the corner. And I'm like, all right, we'll go in the corner, so he's all about it.
My final thought tonight is about Bristol, my home track. I live about 4 miles from the track. I've lived here for 10 years. I grew up in Kansas, so technically that is my home track, and I definitely claim it as one of my home tracks. But when I actually lived in Kansas City, actually Kansas City, Missouri, but really close to the track. When I grew up, the track was not there. The track was not built until long after I moved away from Kansas City. So while it is my home track, sort of, and I did cover it for about 5 years, I've been covering Bristol for close to 20. So I do kind of just consider this home. That's why it hurts my heart when people talk about taking the race away from this place. I mean, this place is so cool. And when you talk to the drivers and you talk to fans or non-fans that come in here for the first time, they're just blown away about just what this place is about. The Coliseum, the fans right on top of you, the cars, the speed, the sound. And so, I'm hoping for a huge crowd. I like I said, I've lived here for 10 years, about 4 miles from the track. Activity is certainly more active around the track than it normally is. It has been in recent years surrounding this race. So hopefully there'll be a big crowd, and hopefully everybody will see a great race, because I'd also like to see, a little more action come back to Bristol. So hopefully with the tires and the PJ1 on the track, that will help fix that. Thanks for joining us on the Backstretch. We'll see you next week.